Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going? Hi. Hi, energy.
And
High energy. Hello.
God, our listeners are gonna think you're psychotic.
They already think that. What's up? How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm feeling bored, as we've talked about, but excited. Woo! Yeah. How about you?
Why are you excited, Sunny? What's so exciting?
My training just ended, and I'm going to be a teacher soon, so I'm feeling excited about building that out, and a little scared because it's going to probably be partially virtual. So that's where I'm at.
Wow. Sunny, you're gonna be feeding the children of America knowledge. Are you kidding? Like, that's amazing. Kudos to you. I bow down. We stand a genius queen. Um,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, all. Welcome to Scary Talk, episode 60. Sunny, is it
I think
67?
it's 67.
67.
Yeah.
67. 67. I was questioning because I need to make sure I don't miss. Episode 69 needs to be special. That's all I'm saying.
We'll definitely have to come up with a
I was
phallic theme
afraid.
for it, for sure.
Yeah, there has to be. And so I was just afraid that I hadn't tracked that right. I was like, oh my god, what is it? It is 67. Hi all, welcome to this episode. Today we are talking simulation theory again because you all liked it so much. I got a couple of messages from some people that really liked the past episode and wanted a continuation ASAP. So this is that.
Wow, give the people what
Yeah,
they want.
hope you like it. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about something very, very, very important, poignant, and relevant right now, and that is Britney Spears.
Yes.
Sunny, would you like to say something first? Go.
Free Britney.
Free Britney. That's basically, yeah, in a nutshell. Okay, so, okay. So Britney Spears has been posting a lot of weird shit on social media.
Mm-hmm.
If you check her Instagram, if you check her Twitter, it's basically like her PR management team being like, visit Britney the Zone attraction in LA, which for some reason is still open, I think, during this, which is amazing. But her Instagram, clearly she posts herself, and it's a bunch of posts of her like modeling different dresses and little shirts and whatnot, and her makeup always looks so like ugly and
How dare you?
listen, I love my queen,
her
but
like that.
something's going on there, right? Like, does she have permanent eyeliner? Why does she always look like a raccoon, right? I don't know if this is gonna get me canceled in 20 years when
I'm canceling
makeup
you
shaming
right
becomes
now
a
for
thing.
this.
Thank you. I don't know if in 2040 like makeup shaming is gonna be part of cancel culture. I don't know, but right now it's okay to say that. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with her face. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is she seems to be speaking so robotically, and she also moves very robotically, like when she's doing her poses. I saw this video that she was doing, which I thought was kind of funny. She said, and I quote, this isn't direct, but basically she was like, I want to congratulate all of my fans at the LGBT community. As if it's like a center. like
As though she can
she
claim
really
the whole
said,
community as her fan.
yeah. She was like, all of you that are at the LGBT community. I was like, oh girl, I'm there. I go to the LGBT community all Tuesdays and Thursdays. No, it just sounded kind of funny. So that was kind of memey, but at the same time, when you see her talking in this video, she is so robotic. She's standing in this very still position, and she seems very I don't know, timid about it, but at the same time, her legs are shaking, and also she makes zero eye contact with the camera, and she's talking really fast. And it's just odd. Also, who's filming this? If it's Sam Agashari, her boyfriend, okay, but we have no idea. It's just so weird. Who's in Britney's life right now? Who's letting her do all of this and post all of this stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of the research on her conservatorship and updates to it, and these videos just leave.
Lay it down for us, teacher. Come on.
It's just that she's been in this conservatorship for now over 10 years, which was originally in 2008 because she was having a lot of mental breakdowns, and I think there's a photo of her driving with her son in her lap instead of in a seat separate that got a lot of attention. And so they she ended up being in a conservatorship with a lawyer and her father. And then in 2019,
Well, what is a conservatorship site?
good point. Conservatorship is the equivalent of having like a legal guardian, usually used for people who have some kind of extenuating circumstance where they cannot legally take care of themselves. In Brittany's
Mm-hmm.
case, the justification was that she was having struggles with mental illness. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so now all of her assets, her financial assets, possibly aspects of her personal life, can be controlled by her father slash her lawyer. And the crazy thing is the money aspect. There was an expenses list for 1 year where she had spent like $500,000 on uh, expenses and other things, and $1 million on like conservatorship fees. And I think 100,000 of
Right.
that went to her dad, and the rest went to that lawyer. Um,
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, shouldn't like you'd almost. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense technically. Like a conservative, like, whatever. Like having a conservator, if that person has to be paid, like I guess will always cost the same amount regardless of how much you spend personally every year. But it just feels wrong that she is spending more on these legal fees than on anything personal.
right?
It's just kind of
Yeah,
odd.
what lawyer needs
Um,
$900,000 a year in fees? Like what?
is that even the? I mean, I wonder if it's more than just the lawyer. I mean, I hope it is because otherwise that's such a
Yeah.
scam. Maybe like I don't know, having a conservatorship like requires fees because you're paying for some kind of like structure to be maintained by some kind of legal institution. I
Mm,
have no idea, but what I do know is yeah, like you said, like a tenth of those fees, which ends up coming out to more than 100K, goes to her dad every year. And also, you mentioned earlier that the conservatorship um was delegated to her dad and her lawyer, but
mm,
her lawyer actually exited from the conservatorship a couple of years ago,
yeah.
uh, and the dad became the sole conservator. And now it's super weird because when her dad started having health problems, this was early last year, he actually was like, oh, never mind, I need to bring someone back in this conservatorship to help me, and that's going to be Brittany's manager now. So
Yeah.
now Brittany's manager is managing her personal like side of the conservatorship, and her dad is only doing the financial side of the conservatorship.
Totally, totally. Which is super wild. I just saw a video where she was talking, and there was one thing that was like, if you could have any three things, what would it be? And she was like, love, happiness, and a limitless supply of designer clothes. And I'm like, girl, you're sitting on like $50 million. I feel like that is a pretty close to unlimited supply of designer clothes if you wanted. Like, let Britney buy her designer clothes. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, that she can't just use that money because part like the quote unquote personal part of the conservatorship that is now being managed by her manager is like, entails that, from what I read actually, she has to kind of ask for permission for bigger expenses,
Mm,
which again it's just crazy. It's like she's a child, right?
yeah. And she's 38 now.
Yeah, I know, but granted, I guess like if you're 38 and you're super crazy and you have a lot of problems and you really can't handle yourself, or
Hmm.
you're like a danger to society. I mean, then your age is irrelevant. But I don't think Britney falls into that category. Even if she fell under that category potentially in 2008 and 2007 and 2008 because she endangered her child by driving with it in the front seat. Let's get real. That is true.
Hmm.
Even if that was the case then, I don't think that's the case now.
Hmm.
And so for this conservatorship to have been extended for over a decade, to me, is just, I don't know, like manipulative and extortive, right? It's
Totally.
like the dad is trying
Totally.
to make bank, and so he obviously has an incentive to keep this conservatorship in place, and so basically does anyone else that benefits from this monetarily the same way that the dad does. And I'm sure there's other people, staff and whatnot, whatever the fuck.
Totally. Totally.
Um,
Plus, like,
which is, go
well,
ahead.
just at this point, why Britney? Like, there's so many stars who have wasted all their money or, like, gotten caught up in drug addictions or had all kinds of serious problems without having a conservatorship called for. Like, Justin Bieber a few years ago probably could have used a conservator. Just gonna put it out there. But I feel like the thing with Britney is A, that she's a mother, and that rings a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of alarm bells for people.
Yes.
Although, again, if she's not an effective mother, why not move the child out of that situation? And, it's just such an interesting, convoluted situation. And I feel like, I don't know, it's just, there's probably some bias in here.
Well,
There's probably some, like,
the thing is like one, she was a mother,
Mm-hmm.
and also two, mother or not, just sexism. Frankly,
Yeah,
I think and
exactly,
especially like
exactly.
sexism in 2007, like
Yeah.
like way worse than it is now. However, this is super interesting, Sunny. Like the custody basically have been taken away from her at least for some time following all this shit with her children,
Mm.
which I think is actually fair because I mean she did put her children in danger. There's like besides the car thing, there's also like this very famous paparazzi clip of her like walking with her kid, and she was trying to get away from the paparazzi. She had a baby in her arms, and she almost dropped the baby because she tripped on something on a sidewalk because she was running, so she wasn't really looking. And like, yeah, like the paparazzi were chasing her, clearly stressing her out, whatnot, whatnot. But if she had dropped her baby, that would have totally been on her. So for people to have the concern that like, we don't want that to happen, so like we're gonna take custody away at least for now, I think that's justifiable. I'll say that.
I definitely think it's
Um,
justifiable, but in a situation like
but
that, it's like how many women almost drop their kids every day and don't have CPS called on them for that? That doesn't sound
I
like.
guess I should,
Mm,
Sunny. I guess I should add
mm,
this. Everyone saw it, right? Like a lot of people that happens to them, but it's like in their homes, in the privacy of their lives.
exactly.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's the fact that you're also a superstar. Like you have all this. There's a lot of impetus to bring you down already because
Yeah.
people are jealous of
Well,
superstardom,
exactly. I just
and
feel like, ah,
yeah. So I mean, I guess what I said, but then bring it down through the filter of superstardom, and everyone saw it. So
everyone
there's
saw
a
that
lot more
she
pressure for that.
almost accidentally dropped her kid.
Exactly.
That's so
Exactly. So there's a
extra.
lot more. There's a lot more. I mean, I don't. I'm like, listen. I'm just gonna say there's a lot more impetus for the custody to be taken away because she is so famous and everyone saw it, and there's gonna be a lot of pressure
Hmm.
for that action to be taken. Now the thing with the conservatorship is that was something she actually agreed to be put into
Mm.
because she wanted to recover custody of her children. So it's almost like
Oh,
it's like the
interesting.
devil's game, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like she hates this now. Who wouldn't? But it's the price that she had to pay. However, like as far as she knew back then, she was only going to be in this for a couple of years, especially after she had been getting her act back together with the release of Blackout and the release of Circus in 2007 and
Blackout
2008
is such a
respectively.
good
Like,
album. We could. Ooh.
so my point is, like, I'm sure in her head, with all this work that she was doing, even though she didn't really want to work at the time, because she seemed really put together, she must have thought to herself, "There's no way this conservatorship can last much longer," and so the price to get my children back was totally worth it. But lo and behold, this thing kept getting extended year after year after year after year, and I'm sure now she fucking regrets it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but she technically agreed to be put into this. It's not like she was put into a psych ward and was like, okay, now you have a conservator because you're straight up crazy. The
Mm.
courts didn't actually think she was like totally insane. They were like, we don't think like you're okay, but we don't know how fit you are to be a parent right now.
Mm.
You can have your kids if you basically have someone looking over your shoulder while you do it, and that's what a conservatorship is. Do you
Mm.
want it or do you not want it?
Mm.
And then she said yes. So, you know.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And opt in, but now all these years later, you go, Brittany. I'll support her in whatever she does.
I know. I mean, the okay. So under one of her videos where she's all robotic and whatnot, there was an Instagram comment that gained a lot of traction that was like, "Brittany, if you need help, wear yellow in your next
Yeah.
video." And the very next video, she's wearing
Yeah.
this. She's
Yeah.
wearing
Yeah.
this yellow
Yeah.
top.
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's real. Like, I don't think that's why Britney wore yellow. Like, I think that would be such an extra thing to be like, yeah, I'm asking for help through my Instagram
I
comments,
feel like
through my
if
Instagram
it were
videos.
one random comment, that'd be one thing. But I feel like it was one of the biggest comments. Like she has to have seen it, you know?
I guess that's true. We do know she reads them because she recently replied back to someone who was mean to her that basically said like, "Brittany, you look like shit and you're crazy," and she was like, "Well, then why do you follow me?" Like a very tame response because she's like a sweet girl. Um, so, but so she does read them. So maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
maybe Britney Spears doesn't exist, right? And she's just, I mean, like she's just a simulation. I don't know.
I mean,
That
I
was a
was
poor
I was
segue.
about to
Uh,
say the same. With things as wild as Britney Spears being in a 9-year conservatorship happening, who could help but question whether the world we live in is a base reality or but a simulation?
Right, right, indeed. Also, okay, the way I want to start this episode, I mean, right, is by asking you this, Sunny.
Mm.
What if there is no base reality? Now,
Ooh.
just sit on your chair and start to deeply fall into this hole into the ground, sink into it with me. Okay, so if we're a simulation, that means someone else made the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
What if the someone else that made that simulation is actually an AI that is really smart and can make simulations, and that AI was built by another person, right? By someone
Mm-hmm.
else. But what if that someone else that built that AI, that built us, is another AI? And so forth and so forth and so forth. Okay, well, still, at some point, you'd have to get to some original creator,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but wait, my brain hurts. but but what if that original creator is actually just another AI, just one big AI? Okay, but who created that AI? What if no one created AI? What if the whole universe is? Oh my God! Wait, no, I'm making no sense. No, I guess there would still have to be a creator, right? Yeah, because AI implicates that it is artificial, so it must have been synthesized by someone. So I just wanted to be edgy, but it didn't really lead anywhere. I don't know.
I like the question.
I think it's one of those like r slash I'm 14 and this is deep. But when you really think about it, it doesn't actually work.
Well, what if the base reality and base AI is just God?
Or that, right? But I mean, but even then, I guess you still have a base creator. You still have a non AI base creator.
Yeah.
So my thought kind of falls apart. Um,
It's interesting though.
huh.
If we live in an ever expanding infinite universe, maybe it's an ever expanding infinite line of creators.
I
That's
mean,
also
I
I don't
mean,
know
you
what
know,
that means at all, but
I mean, it's. I guess what I could still say is that even if there is, in the end, one true non AI creator, what if, what if we are in the 1 millionth like simulation? Like like what I'm saying is
mm,
like what if we're not a simulation created by like some future humans or whatever,
mm,
but what if we are like the simulation created by an AI that was created by an AI that was created by an AI times, I don't know, a million? Like
totally,
what if we're really down the line? That is really trippy.
totally, because we could also theoretically create simulations in the future, so we could be part of that line. Um,
Right. Like I think being first in line created by someone and just being that simulation that has just been created by the creator is spooky, but not having any like human input like times a million down that line, and it's all been just AI. One, damn, the AI has gotten really good in the future, and two, that's super spooky because it's like, wow, we really have no creator touch. You know what I mean?
mm,
Damn, like, wow. I don't
yeah,
know. So
I like
I just
that.
wanted to start with that
No,
ramble.
that's a great
You're
ramble to
welcome.
start
You're
with.
welcome.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Something else I want to talk about during this episode, and I think really the bigger chunk of this episode, at least for me, is gonna be Randonautica. So I don't know, Sunny, if you had heard about this before I told you we were gonna talk about this.
I had not. I
Had
had to
you?
just look it up.
Okay. Wait, I can hear your like cousin or something. Are they gonna go away?
Uh, Probably not. But I've made a note for
Okay.
background.
Okay, it's fine. Then as long as you make that note, it's fine. I'll also make the same note. And if it gets bad, we'll just stop talking for that minute and then go back to it.
Okay.
Okay, so had you heard about Randonautica before I told you we were gonna talk about
I
it?
had not heard of Randonautica. I had to just do some research.
Okay, so what do you know about it now, Sunny? Why don't you tell the audience just for a sec? What is Randonautica?
Yay! Okay. So, from what I understand, Randonautica is an app that you can use to try and do something that will break you out of the so-called matrix by sending you to a random location. But it gets a little bit deeper than that because there are three kinds of random locations. So the way that they calculate for these random coordinates is by finding quantum random points. Now, as far as what
Mm-hmm.
that is, I looked into it a little bit, and as far as I can tell, it's like random points that they find by doing some kind of quantum stuff, because the app was partially made by physicists. But there are three kinds of
Mm-hmm.
points that you can find. One is a quantum point, which is a random point. An attractor is the location of high density quantum point distribution. So, in other words, a lot of the random points have landed in that area of the attractor. And a void is the opposite of an attractor. It's the location of low density quantum point distribution. So, very few of the random points landed there. And you get this sort of distribution of points that's pretty interesting. So,
Right.
yes, those are
So,
the places you can end up.
um,
Yes.
the thing with so the thing with this app, which by the way started out as like a bot online actually years ago, and it was also part of apparently the Telegram app, which is like a texting
Mm.
app that you can find in the App Store. It was like actually a feature of that app, and now it's become its own app. And of course, the teenage TikTokers love it, and so everyone's TikToking about the corpses they find or whatever. But the one thing that doesn't make sense to me about this is the app has this quantum location generator, and it randomly generates coordinates for you to travel to using quantum computing, basically something like that, that is very extra, and we're not gonna like go into explaining because I don't think we even understand it ourselves. But the point is that they like swear up and down the locations they're providing you are truly randomly generated. The problem with that is, how do you combine the concept of randomly generated with the concept of intention, right? Because the thing is that
Mm.
the Randonautica app asks its users, once it gives them I'm sorry, not once. Before it gives you a coordinates, it asks you, like, think of an intention. Like,
Mm.
think of the thing that you want to find in whatever coordinates we're about to provide you. Think about that. Whether it be like, oh, I want to find something related to love, or a rainbow,
Mm-hmm.
or something beautiful. Like, it asks you to have a very clear mental intention of what kind of thing or experience you want to find when you go to this place they're about to recommend to you, right?
Totally.
And then they give you the coordinates that have just been quantumly generated, which, like, okay, but then how does that work? Like, how is it truly random if it just asks you to have an intention in mind so it could provide you with coordinates that will provide you with that experience, you know?
Mm.
How does that work? um that's contradiction, love. So that's my one problem with that. But beyond that, Randonautica is actually pretty interesting because of the things that people have been finding using this app, going to the coordinates that this app gives them.
Mm.
People have been finding, like, I don't know, like creepy children's toys scattered in forests. People have been finding corpses stuffed in suitcases. People have been finding also just like beautiful sunsets and rainbows and like treasures and shit,
Mm.
which I wonder if those are the people that are going in with the more benign intentions. It seems to be the case. Actually, it seems to be that the people who find like dead bodies and shit go into this app with the mental intention of like finding like death or
Mm.
scary
Interesting.
or something spooky,
Mm-hmm.
and then that happens to them, which honestly, like, well deserved. That's that's the intention that you had, right? I
Dude, you
mean,
got the
like, the
ultimate
app
spook,
warned you.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean also you should be happy because you got what you wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but so I mean, regardless of the contradiction, right, that I just posited forth, like, it seems to work. Whatever is happening seems to work. There's a lot of talk, obviously, of confirmation bias. Like, a lot of people saying like, oh, if you think you're gonna find something like that is X, and then you go to this place, like, you're gonna be actively looking out for something that relates to X.
Mm.
So, and you're gonna make a mountain out of a molehill.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be like, oh my god, this totally relates to the thing that I thought of. Like, so there's that, but there also appears to be way too many instances of people finding the thing that they set out to find for this to be a coincidence. You see, like, there's so many TikToks, there's so many Reddit posts on the r/Randonautica subreddit.
Mm.
Um, I don't know, girl, it's spooky.
It's definitely pretty spooky from some of the stories I've seen. Um, Although, yes.
What have you seen? What have you seen, Sunny?
I mean, I just saw some of the top ones that were like finding a corpse, finding like a dismembered body in a
Yeah.
suitcase, and also have
Mm-hmm.
found a a Reddit story that I would be happy to read at some point. That was pretty interesting. Um,
Actually, read that one to me right after I talk about what you just mentioned, the body in the
mm,
suitcase. I know I mentioned it too. This, okay. Randonautica came to my attention. Hi, everyone. Because I saw this video talking about how I saw this video talking about a TikTok, and the TikTok contained within it these teens that had used the Randonautica app, got coordinates, went to it. I think they wanted to find something mysterious. Yes, mysterious.
mm,
They went to this coordinates. It takes them to like the beach, and there's like a shit ton of rocks on like the shore or whatever.
mm.
And then they see that there's this like black suitcase just sitting atop of the rocks, and they approach it. They approach it, and they realize there's this really strong, terrible smell
Oh
around it. Then they
God.
open it. The smell gets worse. They realize that this is all within like a 30-second or like a 1 minute TikTok. It's crazy. They open it. There's like a black trash bag inside, and they note on the video that at that point the smell got even worse. They are actually freaked out at this point. They think it could actually be something like criminal, so they call the police. You can see this is also filmed.
Mm.
They call the police. They're pretty spooked, and the end of the TikTok is just like they're like, "Yep, the police actually came," and then they show this article. The guy that made this TikTok shows this article of like the next day or whatever of like, oh yeah, body found in beach in suitcase.
Dude,
So they
that's
actually found a
insane. And it was
body.
just sitting
That
there?
is
Why would it
insane.
be just
It was
sitting
just
there?
sitting there. I mean, like that in itself isn't insane because like serial killers are fucking crazy. If that is what that was, which what else could it be? What is crazy is that these teens found it because they went on this app seeking for something mysterious to find. Could this just be a gigantic coincidence? Sure, coincidences happen, but boy, oh boy, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the other skeptic thought on this is that if the app is bringing you to totally random places, which is going to include a lot of places that don't get a lot of foot traffic and like corners and things of the world.
That's where serial killers stuff their bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe this was a weird
True.
abandoned beach.
Fair enough. I mean, listen. I mean, the thing is that like sometimes it'll take you to places that are like behind a McDonald's or behind like a Taco
Mm-hmm.
Bell, because it is randomly generated. Like it could be something that's pretty, somewhere that's pretty like obscure or somewhere pretty
Mm-hmm.
popular. So it's actually not always obscure
Mm-hmm.
locations, but I guess a lot of them are. And what you say is true. Very non-traffic locations will likely harbor something weird because there aren't people constantly walking through these places cleaning them up or
Mm-hmm.
like just kind of sweeping through them. Yeah, I guess that's true. um Okay, so before you tell me your story, I just wanted to mention a couple other instances of some really
Oh,
weird shit.
absolutely.
These TikToks have gone super wild, right? There's the one of the suitcase. Then there's the one of there's this TikTok user. Her name is My Ray, and this girl. You watch this video, and just basically it starts with her like pleading to her followers to not go randonauting, because she says that like girl, don't be so stupid. She set her intention as death before using the
Girl.
app, and then came across a man lying in the gutter, cradled by his partner after the man was shot.
Oh,
And
oh,
it's like
oh.
it's
Oh.
it's the wildest shit, right? She's crying. This girl is bawling her eyes out, saying like, "Oh my god, I just saw this man lying in the gutter, and like their partner was hugging them. Like the partner is alive, I think, from what I
Mm.
understand. It's hard to understand the video, and like I guess like this person just like they were just like shot, I guess, and then their partner was like, "Oh no, you're dying," and so they
Whoa.
decided to cradle them in a gutter as they're
Nobody
dying, and
liked
this girl
that.
just happened to see this.
Oh.
Yeah. Um and then she's crying about it because and everyone in the comments, rightfully so, was like, "Girl, why'd you ask for death? Like the fuck." um okay, so that's that, right? And there's another user called Goth Boy Thrift, which we stand, that says to have he was sent to the gravestones of two of his relatives,
Mm.
um which okay is spooky. And then there's another user. I didn't get the name for this one, but this girl says that using the app actually stopped her from being involved in this potentially dead car crash. It's again hard to understand this video, but she basically says that like she used the app and it told her to go here, and like had she not gone there, she would have gone to this other place that she was set to go to, and there was like a car crash that happened there around the time that she was going to be driving there.
Ooh,
So like she wonders if that, it's like, oh my god, like a Final Destination kind of thing, like this app changed my fate or whatever,
totally.
which I don't know, but spooky. So yeah.
It is pretty interesting.
I,
Yeah, just the whole concept of the app as like you have this set routine and certain places that you go, but like every moment in your life will affect like the entire future of your life, right? So what if we just do something random for that 1 second and see what happens? Like it's a really, I don't know, I can see why it's taken off. That's a pretty interesting concept to go off of.
especially in the time of COVID, I think people are just bored and want to go out, and so this app gives them the perfect excuse to go out. It's like if you go out, you'll find something special. Um, so I don't know. I just think it's pretty weird that I mean, listen, I say there's so many examples of weird things happening using this app, so there's no way that there isn't something happening. But I guess, that there could be a lot of people that are using this app and finding nothing, and they're obviously not reporting
Mm-hmm.
it. So for all we know, actually 10% of people who use this app actually find something interesting, which if that's the case, then there's definitely nothing esoteric going on. It's just coincidence, right? And it's just chance and probability. But I don't know. I have no idea. So, what's your story?
Fair. Well, first of all, I did come across one little blog post that was like, here's what I did. And it was all super, like, non-significant. They were like, I set an intention for love, and it brought me to this field. And then
And I love this field. Ergo, Randonautica is real, and we all live in a simulation. Shut up.
Totally, totally. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. But I came across a Reddit story that I actually thought was pretty interesting. So I'll go ahead and go for it. It starts out, it says, can't really TLDR this one, tried to make it as short as I could already. It's worth the read though, link to pictures at the end. So I went with a friend to a dam that I've been wanting to visit for a while, and we were going to go there first and then generate points from there. We drove to the dam entrance. It was blocked with no way to get in. Sign said, no parking. The dam itself was still about a mile down the blocked road. We thought about parking anyways, and were thinking about, what if we got towed? We decided to generate a void point without setting an intention, we forgot, and we're just thinking about if the car got towed. The point came up and was at a place called Bar Tow Trailers. Took it as a sign to not park there or we'd get towed, but we didn't go to the point. We left to try and find another way to the dam. We went to this park that got sort of close to the dam, but we could still barely see it. Before going into the park, this very interesting looking woman was parked in a black truck in the middle of the road. As we passed her, her facial features looked truly unnatural. Not in a mean way, more in a beautiful way, but she literally didn't look human. This is a very, personable story. I love it. We walked around a bit at this park, and this white albino-looking bug was on my friend's shoe. The lady in the black truck kept pulling up next to us and just sitting there in her truck staring at us until we moved to the next spot. This one very old guy in a white small car blasting 80s rock came super fast down the road we were on. The passenger side door was missing in the car. Super interesting. Also, by the way, besides the black car lady, we have literally not seen anyone else this whole time, from before this point to until we were driving home. Everywhere we went, it was deserted. We generated a new attractor point with the intention of uncovering and heavily focusing on finding a way to get to the dam. It took us a 15-minute drive away from where we were to a trailhead going towards a landmark in the middle of nowhere called Cooper's Furnace. On the other side of the road of our attractor point, there was this sign that said, Fish Attractor Point. So a sign literally saying attractor point. We walked 1.5 miles through this trail, saw a bunch of cool symbolistic signs throughout, and got out at the landmark. It was this huge stone structure from the 1800s. It had 2 signs at it talking about things very relevant to things we've been theorizing on lately. We saw this big structure in the distance with lights on and went to go see what it was. It was the dam that we'd been trying to get to. On this side, we could go right up to it. We realized that we were at the exact point that we were trying to get to at the very beginning, because if we turned around and walked down the road for a bit, that the trail led out onto if we walked down the road for a bit, that the trail would get to that exact spot we were stopped at the beginning in our car that we couldn't pass. So it brought us exactly to where our intentions were set to, which was insane. We were driving back and we got to this 4-way intersection that I remembered from driving down when we were going to the attractor point. The GPS told us to go right when I know for a fact that we had come from the left. And the street that went to the right had a sign at the beginning that said no outlet, so I was like, there's no way this is correct. We turned right anyways because the GPS was taking us back to the house correctly. We checked. And then once we turned right, it told us to make another right and loop right back onto the road we were just on. Even though it said no outlet, it still had an outlet. And for some reason, it just put us right back to where we began. That was weird, but we just assumed it glitched, and now it was going to take us left, the way that we originally came. But once we got back onto the 4-way, it told us to go right again on the road that just looped us back around to the road we were on. So we went left, and we're now going the correct way. I pulled up my own GPS to see what the road was called so that I could see if the name was significant. My friend was using Google Maps, and so did I. I pulled it up on Google Maps and looked for the road, and it didn't exist on the map. I looked farther down the road, even though I know I remembered exactly where it was and the intersection, but it was nowhere on the map. The road that it had told us to continuously loop on had disappeared from Google Maps, even though it told us to go on to it just 60 seconds before. We couldn't find it anywhere on the map. It was like we were in a loop, and then we exited it, and when we exited it, the loop disappeared. As we were talking about this, a song was playing, and the only lyrics were, "Is this even real?" over and over. I thought that was a fun point. Yes, so, and then the last point, which is just an idea from the original poster, says, "I take it as before randonauting, we were stuck in a time loop, which is my theory anyways, and we had to break out. And a way to break out from this predetermined time loop / matrix is to randonaut, among other things." So, yeah, I don't know about that theory, but I thought that the last part was really interesting because it goes along with the idea of the simulation, and with this idea of going to a random point. Well, I don't know, I feel like going to a random point where it's not predicted for you to go might make the rendering more likely to glitch or something in a simulation. Totally off the
more
wall
likely
simulation.
to glitch, yeah, but why would it glitch in your favor all of a sudden? Like, yeah, could it make it more likely to glitch? Yeah, that makes sense, I guess, because it's not used to you character BX175 being there. But why would it glitch in your favor, right? Like, why would it glitch if you're thinking, if your intention is, I want to see a deer? Like, why would it glitch for you to see a deer?
Oh, that's a good point with the intention, yeah. But I don't think that
right, why wouldn't it just be a random glitch?
That's true. I don't think that their intention involved the loop, though. It was more finding the dam, which was go randonaut for that.
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, I do think that's a good point with the whole randonauting thing in simulations, is that the intention part is really weird. I feel like that connects more to if you're trying to think about, like, ESP or something.
Right. I mean, I think the reason people I like your story, by the way. It's a good story. I think the reason people link randonauting to simulation theory is because how could you possibly just think of something and then find that, right? Like, that proves that reality is fake, and, like, okay, I mean, it definitely I guess could prove that. Okay, here's the thing. You can take that two ways, right? Like, why, if it is a simulation, why, like I just said, why would it glitch in your favor?
Totally.
Like,
I do like that point.
People connect randonauting with simulation theory because they think it's really unlikely for me to just think something and then have that thing manifest itself, which is true. That is very unlikely. Ergo, this isn't based reality. We're in some kind of computer game. However, it seems unlikely to me that this computer game that you're in would all of a sudden just, like, please the desires of some NPC.
Totally, exactly. Well, exactly. I feel like if randonauting is being used as a proof for anything, I feel like it should be used for something that is not necessarily simulation theory. Like, your intention connecting to the place could be something more like psychic or something else. But I do really like that point that you're making with that. It doesn't really make sense for the game to glitch in your favor, right, when you're asking for it.
Yeah, that is strange. I think if anything, it could be proof of mind over matter, kind of like you
Mm,
said, like psychic extension topic. Like it could be proof that we are in base reality, like nothing to do with simulation theory.
mm,
But what it is interesting is that I guess you can actually influence what happens to you in base reality just based off of your thoughts, because for some reason like the mind has some true effect on the matter around you. That is very metaphysical though,
mm.
and I wouldn't know exactly, like, that's the end of that, but what is the path to get there? I have no idea. Like, I wouldn't really know how to explain the process of how that works,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like that's more likely what this would be trying to prove, rather than, oh, the simulation is real. If anything, if it's proving anything,
Yeah,
really.
and I like what you're saying makes me think too. It's weird that doing like Randonautica in some ways could make you feel more in control, because I guess
Hmm.
if you have the idea that we're in a simulation, then the things that you do and the choices that you make are like predictable and just part of the code, or like someone is purposefully making you do that. But the idea, I
Hmm.
think, with the randomness is that it brings you to a place that is completely outside of that. And by being outside of that, um, I guess isn't simulated or isn't controlled by some outside force. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's my thought
Huh.
there. But yeah, I can see there how it would match up in that you're saying like I'm gonna break the simulation in this moment by going somewhere random that I can't control, and therefore the person up there controlling me, if that's your theory, can't control.
Huh. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Yeah, I like that. Huh. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it really does make you think. It really do make you think, though.
I do
Um,
have some more points on
okay,
simulation theory, whenever. But yeah.
yeah. Okay, so go right ahead. I want to hear those, and then right after that, I'm gonna spook you, Sunny. I'm gonna read you a spooky story.
Yes!
Okay,
I
so
love the
get
spooky
ready for that.
stories you
So,
pick. Okay.
what you got?
First, I have a quote that's really just a good quote. This is a cardboard universe, and if you lean too long or too heavily against it, you fall through.
R/I'm 14 and this is deep.
Shut up. I'm 14 and this
Thanks.
is deep.
Who said that? You?
No, Philip K. Dick in The Dark Haired Girl. Don't know who he is or what the dark haired girl is, but now I'm kind of interested. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I just thought that was a pretty cool quote for what we're talking about. So I went back through a lot of the stuff that we did, and I just found that no matter how much evidence I found for it or how many Elon Musk videos I watched, there's some part of me that's like, no, we're just not in a simulation. Sorry, Elon. um, and I realized there's a reason for that. It's not just like me being unreasonable, but when I got down to it, my real thoughts and doubts were this. If there's some kind of super advanced alien civilization or super advanced future human civilization, whatever it looks like, there are two main things, which is what are their motivations for creating so many simulations, and what are their ethical considerations? And also,
Mm.
why create a simulation so detailed as far as my consciousness goes? That I think resonates the most, right? Because I have a lot of, I don't know about you all, sorry, Andre, you could definitely be an NPC, so could anyone else. I really don't know. I just be talking to you and hanging with you. I'm just kidding too. I have a decent amount of faith in the consciousness of everyone.
Sometimes it really
Um,
do feel like that.
but obviously, that's just so funny. um, we experience our own experience and our consciousness and our emotions. So my question is this. If you're trying to create a simulation to save the world, where you're like, maybe they'll solve global warming, or maybe this, maybe that, wouldn't it be possible to create all these things that do all the things that people do, who like take all the actions I would, and who follow the right patterns and everything, without making me an emotional binge? Like, I feel like you could do that. I feel like you wouldn't have to have all these little
I mean,
details. Um,
Maybe, but maybe having the details is completely irrelevant to the civilization that created the simulation because it is so easy to just add that. And if they can add that for accuracy, why not do it, right? Like maybe their computing power is so intense that it's nothing to just add a full-on conscience to every single NPC in their
I
simulation.
mean, that is possible, but I do think looking at technology right now, and I've watched some stuff on like basically the idea is if here's the theory, if time and space are continuous, then even a tiny piece of the universe has infinite points and cannot be computed. So if we were in a simulation, there has to be some kind of smallest unit that they're working with, like a bit or something,
Mm.
and it just takes like infinitely more computing power to get, well, I can't say infinitely more because that's actually a very specific word as I'm learning, but it takes like exponentially like way more computing power to like compute all the little tiny things like a brain does. So if society is advanced enough to have that kind of computing power where you can create a simulation where like dealing with consciousness isn't a big deal and you can do all these things, then would you have any problems that humanity could really help you out with? Like if you're that advanced, is running a humanity simulation going to add anything for you? Um,
Well, I think that assumes that they're using the simulations for that purpose, but it could be that they're just trying to figure out what their ancestors were like, and maybe they have some kind of starting point information, and then using that, they put that into the simulation, and they say, you know what, simulation, run with this initial information and see where that goes, and so maybe in that sense they can get some kind of semblance of an understanding of what their ancestors
that's
were
true. I
like.
mean, we do study bacteria, so that could be them at
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
For some reason or other. And then I guess my final question about it is ethical considerations. So if you're also that advanced and maybe you're just doing it for fun, um, I feel like a society that advanced would kind of understand like we're creating consciousnesses here. Maybe we should hashtag not. Um,
I mean, I think that's a moot point, actually.
really.
I think that the fact that it appears to me that we will never know whether or not we live in a simulation and that our lives aren't very directly affected by that lack of knowledge allows us to live pretty normal like you know what I mean? Like there isn't it's not unethical because we can't escape the box we're in if we are in a box and we'll never know if the box even exists.
Mm,
So it doesn't really harm me.
that's a pretty interesting point, I guess. But especially,
And that's on T. Wow, Sunny destroyed with facts and logic.
um, but I think it's.
Call me Ben.
Oh, I'm screaming. um, but if you have that kind of society or whatever, and you're saying you can use it for whatever purposes, I still feel like there's an element of control. I mean, I guess the thing is we're allowed to keep pets, and we pretty much control what they do. So maybe if you're that much more intelligent and advanced than us, maybe not on the intelligence, just on the advancement, it's okay to keep your
Mm-hmm.
little simulation going. Um,
I mean, with the pets example, I think it makes a lot of sense because it's not just about what they do, Sunny. We also control, to an extent, what they know because we keep them encaged in our properties.
mm,
So these dogs never know what they miss out on. Not that they would want to anyway, right? You have so many dogs that are basically incapacitated to truly live in the wild
mm-hmm.
because they've been domesticated beyond the point where they could actually survive in the wild. And that's on human things. So it's like, it's not, okay. See, I read a lot of PETA, believe it or not. Mainly because I find them funny sometimes. And anyway, there are a lot. PETA don't come for me. So like I think the most ethical thing in the world, just like really quick side note with the pets
Mm.
thing, just really
Oh, well, I could
interesting,
talk
would
about this
be
stuff
to
all day. I love.
for pets, right? For pets to just not exist at all, right? For people to not have
Mm-hmm.
pets. However, since we have already done so much damage I mean, if you want to call it damage, in the form of domestication, where you have so many animals whose lives are, they can't live life without help
Mm-hmm.
because they're not wild anymore. They can't fend for themselves. The ethical thing now, in the ethereal ideal universe, no pets, sure. But in the real universe that we live in now,
Mm-hmm.
where we have to account for our mistakes, the most ethical thing would be for us to keep having the pets that we need to have for them to survive. I.e., honestly, mostly just dogs, because cats are fine in the wild. um, like we need to keep having dogs, otherwise these dogs will die. And I guess little by little over time, I guess neuter more dogs, so there are less dogs in existence overall. So there aren't dogs living on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like since we already fucked ducks up, we need to take care of them now. But anyway, dogs know what we want them to know. And so it's like we're not being unethical towards them by not letting them go out into the forest and live out their days there. If anything, that would be cruel. So in the same sense, I don't think it would be unethical for us to exist as a simulation that some higher civilization created, because we wouldn't even realize that that's the case. Just like the dog doesn't realize that the forest exists.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty interesting point. Also, as far as dogs go, just in terms of ethical or unethical things, I so stand by that dog breeds are super unethical. And if that gets me canceled, so be it. But when you see a pug and you read that stat that like a quarter of them need surgery because they can't naturally breathe, you cannot tell me that that is cute or like okay. It's just cruel to the animal.
Right.
Yeah, and I've done my research on mutts and their health. As a mixed race person, I've thought about this. Just the whole concept of pets and like animal consciousness is really interesting because, again, in an Elon Musk interview, he was talking about AI, because if we were in a simulation, we would theoretically be AI. But the AI that humans are developing are going to get smarter than us, probably. Like, very probably. And if they get smarter enough than us, we could be the equivalent of pets to them. And the folks who were interviewing him were immediately like, okay, well, how do we stop that from happening? How do we solve that problem? And it was so interesting to me because I was like, why is your immediate assumption that like having something be more intelligent than us is bad? Isn't that good? That we would be, the world would discord. And the assumption there, I think, is that the more intelligent being will control us the same way we have controlled and like mistreated things that are less intelligent than us, like animals.
We talked about this in the past episode. Like, not only less intelligent than us, but the way we've mistreated people and things that we perceive as less intelligent than us, i.e. like a shit ton of indigenous populations.
Yeah, at colonization.
Right, and I guess the question, like the reason to answer your question, why they go immediately to that and why they think that's bad is because I guess a lot of people still, including Elon Musk, I guess, still are caught in 2020 human thinking, which isn't very advanced. Like the ideal would be for everyone to think the following way, which sounds very cocky, right? Because it's like, I think this way, I'm superior. But like for us to see this as like, no, having something more intelligent is good, because something that was truly more intelligent would understand that mistreatment of lesser beings or whatever is fucked.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And wouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, then again, there's intelligence versus empathy, so I guess there's no guarantee that AI would develop those things in equal measure.
I mean, I think, unless you're Austin Gonzalez, those are usually correlated pretty...
I'm screaming by the references you made in this episode! At him!
I think those are actually correlated.
I actually agree. I agree that those things are generally correlated in my experience, excepting Austin. Well, I'm not even going to accept him. I'm not going to give him the intelligence argument, is the thing.
Well, but I think it's the thing. I mean, listen, we can talk about that, but like, I think that's what you meant, and I think that's what you meant. That someone who is like book smart isn't always very emotionally in tune, and in that I can give him that. So there's that. The audience is like, who the fuck are they talking about? And that's great. No, so. Yeah, I do think that, and I do see that, and I do think that's true because I think the more intelligent you become, that intelligence usually contains within it emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And I think seldom do you really see a human grow in their, I don't know, like purely academic standpoints, and at the same time see no growth whatsoever in their, like, empathy towards other humans, right?
I do have to agree with that. Like, I feel like one great example
like, think
is
of Elon Musk.
Well,
or not, or don't, or don't.
But yeah.
I was just gonna say he's a really smart guy, and in what he wants to do now, besides, I don't think he wants to make bank because he's already so rich. He just wants to help humanity, right? He wants to lead us to Mars. He wants to do like the electric car was basically like a big fuck you to the big motor companies that are like innovation bad. And he was like, no, the people need something new, so here you go. Like I think he cares about the concept of humanity as a whole, and that's good enough for me.
That's a good point. That's well, and that's another good point. So this idea of care for humanity as a whole and like care for our species and the continuation of it is really interesting because honestly, humanity could live or die, and I don't really think I would care. Because here's my thing with the whole colonizing other planets too. I have opinions about this because why should we get to colonize another planet that like could sustain life when we've already fucked up our own planet? Like we literally had our chance and blew it. And I don't think that humanity is so great that we necessarily deserve to just keep going and keep living forever. Like we've kind of had our run and done our good things and our bad things. Um, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's a completely subjective moral argument, Sonny. Like
Mm,
you saying, I don't think humanity is like so great that we should get to do X and Y is like, well, apparently we are great enough because we are about to be able to do X and Y, and if we can, then why not do? Especially because Mars is barren, so
mm,
we're not really affecting anyone or any living thing. So I think if we were moving, like we were trying to colonize like a place, right? Like 500
mm.
years ago, or like a planet that had people in it and like population and shit, like not good. But it's barren. Like there's no one else there for the taking. No, like the aliens are like, no, I bid you higher. I want it. Take Mars. Okay, Mars for 200, Mars for 300, Mars for 400. You say 500. Like so.
No, that's a good point. I think with Mars, I don't mind at all. We could colonize the hell out of Mars. I think I'm more so thinking like when we find those planets where we're like, oh, it's water and it has water and it can sustain life and everything. And our first thought is like,
Mm,
oh, how about we use that? Like, what if other life was going to develop
mm-hmm.
there? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't think I mind Mars.
I mean, I could be totally wrong in my argument just because we did find frozen oceans in Mars. The belief currently is that there is no life there, even if there maybe used to be
Mm,
millions of years ago. But
ooh,
there could be very well something in that permafrost. However, like, that would seem like it really lends to your argument of like, oh, we shouldn't go there. But to kind of rebut my own rebuttal to you is the fact that well, that permafrost has been fucking frozen in what 100 million years now. Is it gonna do anytime soon? I don't think so. So, are we really impairing any future life formation there? I mean, maybe in like 100 other million years, but do you really care at that point? Like, are we really like impairing something that immediate and important? I really don't think so.
mm, mm,
So, in a sense, it's almost a philosophy of like, listen, house, life is for the taking, and so is the universe. And as long as this thing is practically, mostly, if not completely barren, I'm not gonna like go crazy over the little like nuts and bolts of it. Like, could there be some kind of like primitive amoeba frozen in the permafrost of Mars? Yes. Am I gonna go crazy about that? No, because again, it's almost like the universe is for those who want to take it, and we don't seem to be harming anyone. So,
I can agree with that. I can agree with having a will to live as long as we aren't actively harming anyone. Um, yeah, yeah. And on that
mhm.
note, we love simulation theory.
Yeah. Let me read you the spooky story that I have for you.
Yes, yes.
It's pretty short, and it actually relates back to randonauting, which I know we stopped talking about like 20 minutes ago. But let me just. This was good. This was good.
Okay.
So, this is on the Randonaut subreddit, and it is by user Wet Sack of Beans. Um, I love Reddit usernames. Mine is so fucking boring. Anyway, um, this is called seriously disturbed by this. Randonauting is no game. And this person says, please, for the love of God, read. This occurred around midnight, and all parties involved were sober. Myself and two close friends, we'll call them K and N, set out on our journey with the intention of initiating the fight or flight reflex. Bad idea, by the way. um, all three of us meditated on situations that would cause this, and our generated point, a void point, was in the middle of an empty field, which Kay grew up next to and was always creeped out by. Apparently, he pictured this exact field during our meditation, which is spooky. He has never been one to mislead us, so I trust that that's the truth 100%. Already terrifying, right? Okay, so the three of us
Yeah,
hop
what?
off fence into the field and make our way toward the point. So basically, like these three guys are like, let's look for something spooky because we're stupid, and they like meditate on it, I guess. And this guy like thinks of a field in his mind, and then Randonautica takes him to this exact
Yeah.
field that this guy pictured, which clearly something weird. And then they get there and they hop a fence into the field. They make their way towards the point, and there wasn't anything right on the point. So he says we decide to explore the field a little. We didn't walk more than 15 or 20 feet by the light of our phones before we stumble across what we could only be described as crop circles. He says that it's most likely from kids doing burnouts in the field or something. But they were perfect circles in the short grass, which to me seems like this is almost a fake story, and the guy's trying to like create this red herring by saying, "Oh, it's most likely kids." You know me, I'm a non-believer.
Mm.
But right after he's like perfect circles, which is an obvious like heuristic for most people, like
Mm-hmm.
aliens, right? So like whatever, author. But anyway, he says. We stepped over the first concentric circle, then the second. We then heard a horrible noise somewhere between a snarl and a pig squeal. So I'm guessing they heard K and N are ready to book it, but I convinced them to grow some hair on their balls and push on. In parentheses, terrible idea. Okay.
Toxic
I'm
masculinity is
surprised he
bad.
couldn't.
Who knew?
Yeah, like, why couldn't he see that then? Like, why didn't he realize that was a terrible idea then? Anyway, I couldn't see what made the sound, but for some reason, we all began to look at the same patch of darkness under a tree about 150 feet away. Also weird that we all knew to look at the same spot without any sort of communication, he says in parentheses. I thought I could make out a white blob in the darkness, but couldn't figure out whether it was just one of those eye spots or something actually there. It either got brighter or it got closer to our lights, because I soon realized that something was in fact there, but every time I tried to look at it, it would jump to the right of my periphery, and when I tried to look at it again, it would jump to the left of my periphery. A few moments after I realized this, Kay said, I can't look directly at it, and said, I was just about to say something, me neither. I told them the same. I tried to view it just through my peripheral vision, at which point it started vibrating violently, then very quickly advanced on us.
Whoa.
Needless to say, we used every drop of adrenaline sprinting away, falling over the fence, and tearing out of there in my car. He says, I'm a very literal, tactile, scientifically minded person. I'm mostly atheist, and I don't believe in much that I can't see or can be proven. Oh my god, did Austin write this? None of that supernatural stuff or religious stuff or whatever. My head big, big brain. But whatever we saw that night was real, and it did not want us there. It was certainly extra physical. And the fact that it changed position when we observed it, and uniquely timed position changes for each of us individually, leads me to believe it must be something quantum related. But to be honest, I'm really not sure what the hell it was. Shook all of us to our core, and we're all very emotionally slash physically slash mentally slash philosophically stable individuals, so that means a lot. Calm down, Chad. Okay, so if anyone has any clue what we witnessed or has any questions, feel free to comment. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good story. I really like that. Also, would anyone mentally slash emotionally slash physically slash philosophically stable use that many slashes? Please let me know.
Also, would that kind of person be like, no, let's stay? Right? Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
That was a good
I
one.
thought it was
That
pretty
was
spooky.
really spooky.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, it's a little bit of a douche, but it is a pretty spooky story. So, yeah, just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you for sharing. I'm noted. We'll never ever use Randonautica.
Randonautica. I actually thought about using it, but like going into it with a really good intention, because there's a lot of posts on the subreddit for Randonautica that are very wholesome.
Mm.
So I think it really does depend on your intention. Like, right, like all these spooky stories that I've told you are because you have these stupid kids being like, I want to see something that triggers my fight or flight response, or I want to see death. I want to see something mysterious. Like, no. If I use that, I'm gonna ask for like, oh, puppies, and Dude, what if I like find one and I adopt it? Hashtag
That could be
sweet.
really cute.
Um, I know, but then what if it turns out to be like a spawn of Satan and it's some kind of extra physical being and it kills me at
Then
night?
your secret
Ooh,
intention must have
um,
been Satan.
maybe. And also, that'd be a good ass YouTube storytime video. Are you kidding me? Got a puppy, hashtag, no, got a puppy in parentheses, gone wrong, got emotional. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, y'all, if you like this episode, please do let us know. This was the episode for today. And again, if you have any future episode ideas, please do DM us at Talk Scary on Twitter and Instagram, and at Scary Talk on our Facebook page. Remember that you can listen to us on all podcast listening platforms. That is Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. Yeah, Sunny, anything else?
No, just all the same things, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Remember, if you use Randonautica, you will get pregnant and you will die. So don't do it. And we love you. Thank you for listening. Good night.